This startling account of a soul's activities after departing the mortal plane was provided to researcher Eliot J. Rosen in 1998. The experiences involved communications received by Jean Houston from her deceased father, who seemed to have retained his irreverent sense of humour in the afterlife. Jean Houston is a well-known philosopher, author, and human development leader. Her father was a popular comedian and prolific comedy writer who developed material for early stage and television shows and films. Many famous comedians drew on his skills, seeing him writing for much-loved performers such as George Burns and Bob Hope. Jean's family followed Hope around on the entertainment circuit, and so were constantly moving during her childhood. In her interview for Rosen's book, Jean shared some stories with him about her father, whom she described as a complete atheist throughout his whole life. She quotes his take on mortality as habitually claiming, "When you're dead, and that's it." However, 10 days after his passing away, she experienced an astonishing communication from him. On this particular occasion, Houston was guiding a meditation with several hundred attendees at one of her seminars. Houston's life's work is devoted to unlocking human potential, and the technique she was using involved asking her participants to imagine proceeding through successive doors of the mind, with one door opening into the next one, then the next, and progressing accordingly. At some point, she decided that she may as well also do the meditation herself, so she closed her eyes and found an available door within her own mind. She later described the door as coloured with a paisley pattern at its base and with glass at the top. This is where, suddenly, her father appeared behind the door in her meditation. Despite Houston regarding herself as not much of a visual thinker, what she saw was unmistakable. There was her father grinning his usual happy grin at her. For some reason of which she was not aware, she asked him, "Dad, what should I call you?" He replied, "Call me Popsicle," after which he let out a laugh and disappeared. Later in the day, Houston called her father's wife and related her strange experience of encountering her father in a meditation. She also added that he had said, "Call me Popsicle." Her dad's widow began to laugh hysterically and told her that she had just had a call from the Forest Lawn mortuary. They had told her that the cremations were so backed up that they were keeping her father on ice. When later describing this incident to researcher Rosen for his 1998 book Experiencing the Soul, Houston also laughed at the hilarity of the quip. She said that her comedian father's line, "Call me Popsicle," was so much like him, with its clever play on the words pop and popsicle. This was not her last spiritual encounter with her father, when 6 months later she experienced a lucid visionary dream in which she was asleep but fully conscious. Her father again appeared and addressed her, "Hiya kid," just as he had always done in life. Still in her vivid dreamlike state, Houston asked him what he was doing there, as he was now supposed to be departed. Her father again quipped quite humorously that he'd got some time off for good behaviour and could tell her what he had been doing. He told her that he was able to go all over the world instantaneously and nobody could see him. He said it was great because he was able to get into comedy clubs for free. He had been checking out a club in Manchester which had what he called a chicken act, and he wanted Houston to go there. He gave her the name of the club and then started talking about another show he'd seen. This one he described as a wild act involving 2 women and an ostrich. He again gave her the name of the club where this performance was taking place. He'd obviously been very busy in his travels, as he went on to describe and name about a dozen more comedy venues with acts he'd enjoyed. He continued talking to Houston in the dream and went on to emphasise that it was really him present and communicating with his daughter. He asked her to remember the names of the clubs he had given her and perhaps even get some material together to create her own act. This wasn't a great stretch, as Houston had started out in life as an actor. Of course, he ended humorously with a bit of a good-natured dig at her chosen career. On awakening, Houston managed to remember 3 of the names of the clubs her father had given her. Googling was not a thing then, so she looked up the phone numbers of these clubs and made some calls. When she asked each club about their comedy acts currently showing, she was astonished to hear that those very acts described by her father were appearing in those venues. Obviously not one to fade into the background, a few weeks later, Houston's father made another appearance in her awareness. She was again guiding a meditation, this time with a group of students in Venezuela, whom she was taking back to the age of the ancient Druids. She was enabling their visualizations by speaking about the environs of Stonehenge and the white robes the participants would be wearing there. She also spoke of other surrounding aspects, which included a chalice, a sword, and many ravens flying overhead. She continued to elaborate with her descriptive imagery. At the end of the session, she was approached by a woman participant who couldn't stop laughing. She told her that a figure who identified himself as Houston's father had emerged during her meditation, dressed as one of the Druids. When asked to describe him, she stated that, sure enough, the man was tall and bald and had a large grin on his face. Smilingly, she said that Houston's father had told her, "Next time, tell my daughter not to send in so many stinking birds." Houston had trouble grasping the significance of this strange appearance, and so afterwards again called her father's wife and related the story. Once again, the woman began to laugh uproariously. She told Houston that one of the last things her father had jokingly said was that in his next incarnation he thought he might be an ancient druid. Houston herself had no way of knowing this quirky statement. For proof of survival and life after life, these communications from her father seem all the more powerful coming from a self-avowed atheist. But they also show a strong desire to reach out to his daughter. Houston took away from these experiences confirmation of her belief that life does not come to an end, that death is the closing of one door and the opening of another.